to the One Piece episodes and TV content, / maybe this will get pulled out and released as its own separate thing at some point. We were talking about spoilers for episode 1093. So if you haven't watched that or read the manga to the point of Egghead Island, please go watch it before you come in here. All right. I have hot takes about this Law Blackbeard episode, but I want to know your thoughts before I give small, maybe somewhat thirsty hot takes.
Okay, so the discourse that happened after the Blackbeard Law incident was crazy because this is an episode that's kind of deviated from the source material and it's been greatly expanded upon.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the primary discourse that I've seen now is like, how strong is Blackbeard really? And like, what, like, how good are people actually at hockey and all this stuff? But that said, even without getting into the nitty gritty of the lore and stuff, I love that episode. I thought episode was just hype as hell.
I mean, it was the same animation team between episode 1015, which I think is my favorite One Piece episode of all time, and the Vincent Chansard, who was the animator who also did that episode, but also did the King versus Zoro episode and did a lot of the Gear 5 episode content. He's just so stellar.
Yes.
The funniest hockey power level thing is the Van Auger conversation because Van Auger, and one I love that they're bringing, because those were cover stories in the manga, so they're like finally bringing cover stories in, especially because like this is historically the most important cover story in the last few years from a plot perspective. But Van Auger takes out with one shots multiple cracker soldiers who Luffy couldn't take out if he wanted to. Until he became Tankman, and Nami wetted them in gear, like Tankman in Gear 4 with Nami covering them in water, making them soggy. Luffy was finally able to eat them.
Yeah.
And Van Auger one-shotted like 3 of them, no problem. And at the same time, I don't remember his name, but the burly ex-slave that Law saved in Saobody that's on his crew just took a bullet from him in the chest, no problem.
Yeah. So power level, it's like, what? Wait, what's happening here?
And I'm fine. Well, so I mean, that like the one thing I will say is, and this was true even for the manga, is like this was the moment that you're like, oh, Law's crew isn't useless.
Yes, like, absolutely. Like when Shachi and Penguin actually did stuff, I was like, whoa, that they do stuff. Wow, that's insane. I thought they were just there to be,
It's not surprising because they're a submarine, but it ends up that like One Piece doesn't ever do any water battles. And so we've never seen characters that are good at fighting in water. And so they've just been useless on land in Jail and Wano.
Yeah, no, it was great to see Law's crew just get a little bit more expanded, and also to another extent just Blackbeard's crew too, because like we really don't get to see a lot of who they've put together, and you can see one, like Blackbeard's crew is just terrifying. They're crazy. They're insane. Like they got to pop off, and you get to really like witness their terrifying strength. And like I got more respect for that crew seeing what happened. But then on Law's side, I also felt like, oh, okay, this is why, you know, Law is worthy of his Worst Generation title, because his crew isn't just useless, but at the same time, you get to have a new like appreciation for just how strong Law is as well. Because
I definitely like walked away. Like the thing I tweeted immediately after watching was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, Blackbeard is the end game. Like I now understand. Like,
yes,
he is terrifying. You also remember like, oh right, Blackbeard or like Whitebeard was surrounded by his like family, and so couldn't go all out with his specific power because it would just murder people he cared about, and was there to save someone he cared about. And B was also dying. And so when you remember those two things, that Blackbeard is neither of those things. He doesn't care about anyone around him and is willing to kill anyone that's in his way. And B isn't on his death's bed and is arguably in his best fighting condition. Terrifying. And that's just his one power. We didn't even see the fact that he has this whole, you know, legendary, probably like a secretly Nika-esque devil fruit in his pocket. But then Law held his own. Like there's a lot of kid slander and some spoilers for the manga as well, which I won't get into. But like even then knowing the spoilers from the manga and then watching Wano unfold, I was like, oh, Law does do way more important things in this fight than Kid does.
Comparing their two fights is so funny. Like, I'm very curious. Like, when we get to shake again, this is spoilers for what's
Whatever the
coming
manga
up, but
chapters are. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, so
but
before we jump to that, because I do want
okay,
to,
okay, okay.
there was my one Toei complaint, because everything else in this was great. This was, in the comic, a relatively thirsty moment, which is when we see Girl Law, when we see all
Yeah.
and the whole crew go, and they played it very for laughs, which was great. But the fact that this had less fan service, which I think it was like a perfect moment maybe to have a lot of fan service, while it's spoilers why it's problematic, but the Jewelry Bonnie scene 2 episodes ago was as fan service heavy as it was, in a way that it definitely should not have been, is like, wait,
Yes.
this was your moment.
Yeah, what are we
People
doing here?
question themselves. Like, that's fine. That other one is a little grosser, but a lot grosser.
Yeah. A lot.
But that's my other like nitpick from the thing. But also Kuzan's terrifying.
Oh my god, I forgot to
Terrifying.
mention that. Holy, he had one of the coolest cameos, I think. I mean, haha, coolest. One of the just like, I mean, he just comes in like this, like icy blue black shadow, and he just murks Crack. I mean, it's not even close, right? Like, it's like he just walks past him, and he's just already donezo. And like,
yeah.
Kuzan's always been one of my favorite characters, and yeah, he's just terrifying there.
Ice powers historically is my favorite superpower in all of like media. Like Iceman's my favorite X-Men. Like whenever ice power, like one of my complaints about Magic is that ice powers in Magic are boring. It's just like tapping a thing down. But I do want to. Okay, so this is my line. We're now entering manga spoilers. So if you don't want to get past where the anime is at currently, we're now talking about it. So you just be caught up in the manga, because I'm going to get all the way up to like literally the most recent chapter. One thing that I think that this arc, Egghead Island arc in general, because a lot of questions, like especially after like Green Bull running away from Shanks, which I have thoughts on, like there's a lot of like admirals are frauds kind of perspective jokes about it, right? And like between this episode and what Borsellino is kind of doing in the current arc, it's like, no. I think admirals are like intended to be admiral level, or not admiral level,
Yes.
Yonko, emperor level, right? Like these are supposed to be Yonko, top tier. Like Borsellino could fight Kaido. This, like, the reason they don't is because the emperors are nation states amongst themselves. It's not, you're not fighting one guy who's very powerful. You're fighting a country. Like the only reason they're not called countries is because then it like loses the world government's convenient title as the world government.
No, that's all. I mean, I think it's funny because now I get a bunch of YouTube shorts talking about this very topic, but like, it's like people always talk about like, well, if they're so powerful, why don't they just go and fight the Yonkos? Like, wouldn't that just do? But it's like they have other things they have to do to get to the Yonko. Like, you can't just like, Kuzan can't just walk up to Kaido at Onigashima and be like, we're just gonna duel over all your stuff, right? That's cool, right? And everyone else just stays out of it. Like, it doesn't work that way. You have their whole like, yeah, like you said, the countries that they rule over and preside over, and their alliances and all this other stuff. Like, it would be such a losing battle for the Marines to try to like nab all of these things at once, you know?
Well, and there's a level of like freedom that the pirates have that the world government doesn't, right? There's a reason why they haven't also taken out the Revolutionary Army completely, because they could just leave. Kaido could just F off. If like Sakazuki showed up and was like, me and the world government are taking Wano. So Kaido would be like, cool, bye. Let me blow up all your ships up, and I'm out. I still have, and while you're here, while I know that your entire military force, which is what you would need to be able to take me on in Wano, is in Wano, I am going to go mess up something else. But ignore me. Like, Big Mom knows you're here. She's going to go do something. Whitebeard is going to finally like let Fishman Island take over the end of the Grand Line in Saobody, so they can go on their theme park that they've always wanted. Like, they're like, you could maybe take out one of us at once, but not all of us. And even though you have 4 or 5 or 3, depending on what time period we're in, power level admirals that can take on Yonko level characters or are close to, that doesn't mean like your power level drops significantly and quickly once you leave that level, where like a lot of the time they have not just their top 5 commanders, but then the next 6 people under them are still more powerful than any vice admiral that we've seen, other than Garp,
Yeah.
excluding Garp, who doesn't count because he's actually an admiral and just didn't want the job.
Just chooses not to be. Yeah.
Yeah, like I think that's really the like, and for both of them, like Barcelino's taking on Luffy one-on-one and like, and is doing it lazily, and Kuzan just terrifying,
Yeah.
but sick. Yeah.
He's just so, yeah. Kuzan's just an amazing character, and he just gets portrayed like so well in this episode in a way that I think like a lot of people will just remember. And yeah, so okay, now I get to talk about the manga a little bit and a little past where the anime is at. And me and my friends have been making jokes that like, Law versus Blackbeard is this whole episode of like crazy animation, and then we're just saying like, dude, Law versus or Kid versus Shanks is gonna be the most hype 10 seconds of all time.
This is what I'm guessing. This is my hot prediction leading up to the Kid episode. I think they're going to show what the future sight that Shanks had. Let me resize that. This is my predictions for the Kid versus Shanks episode. I think they're going to show the devastation that Shanks saw using future sight that Kid does to his fleet or to the island he's on, because the whole reason that Shanks goes from not giving an F to like one-shotting Kid is because he sees with future sight that Kid's going to shoot him with a laser blast so devastating that his entire like fleet of people that admittedly are not strong just gets decimated. So I do think we're going to like see that, and they might even play it like, for whatever reason, the only example, this is a trope in media that happened a few times, but the thing I'm thinking of is the last Twilight movie, for whatever reason, where they like show the whole final battle and you think it's the final battle as it's happening. And then once it's done and it's shown that someone saw the future, like I think they'll play it like Kid did this. Like this is Kid's big moment. And then it's going to like flash, and then it's going to show like those characters are fine. And we're all going to be like, what's happening? And it's going to like flash to Shanks. And then Shanks is going to like teleport sword leap and just like cut Kid in half.
Yeah. I think that would definitely be the way to do it, I think. Cause yeah, I mean, in the manga, it's just so pathetic, right?
Oh,
and like Kid just gets the worst end of the stick always. It feels like out of
an eye blink with like the Street Fighter like notification sound effect, and then just like Shanks teleports and cuts him in one panel. And he's like, that was going to be really bad, guys. Let me tell you, I saw it. Going to be real bad.
But dude, the manga, holy, the stuff that's happening right now is just so good. I should tell the story about like how I got caught up in One Piece, because like I was playing the game, but I actually wasn't fully caught up in either the manga or the anime, and I had just been kind of playing the game. But then I injured myself playing soccer. I tore a calf muscle, and so I couldn't stand up, do anything, right? So I was like, what better time than just to binge all of One Piece media? And so I watched all of the Wano arc, caught up on that, and then I started reading all of the manga. And at the time, I just felt so blessed, because it was just like simultaneously I'm playing this fantastic card game that they're coming out with. The anime is just insanely good during Wano arc, and then the manga has also just been amazing in Egghead. And so it was just like, what a time to be a One Piece fan, because like everything is just hitting, and all the stuff, like especially with Egghead, like it's clear, I think, that we are starting to see the end of One Piece,
Right.
and like he's really starting to add in a lot more flesh to the world of One Piece that like it has always been hinted at, but we never really knew too much about. And like we've always known like these great weapons exist, that this emu person exists. There's like all this hinting at what like kind of constitutes this like forgotten history and yada yada yada. And like it feels like slowly, piece by piece, we're kind of getting trickled down from all these different angles, like the true lore of the world. And like And in doing so, we also just get to extract some of like the best like story bits from these characters, like everything that's been happening with Kuma and it's his connection to the sun god and how that's passed on to Bonnie, and Bonnie finally seeing that, and Luffy, like those moments were just so excellent, and I just been having so much fun with the manga. It's so great.
It's so I caught up. I started reading. When did I guess I started watching like right around episode 1000 came out. Was like when I like eventually it was like right after I think whatever Magic Fest Vegas was that year or whatever, and or it's Gen Con, and Happy Toe Claws and David Perfect Symmetry, who we'll have on the podcast at some point, both like finally I just finished rewatching Hunter x Hunter, and I found it like during COVID, and just finished rewatching Full Metal Alchemist during COVID, and I was like, okay. Oh, and I like finally watched all of Naruto. Like I read the manga when it was releasing. I finished it when it finished like releasing the manga, but I like never watched it after some filler arc that I was like, I'm done. I can't watch this ever again, week to week. And I was like, okay, I've done it. I finished Bleach. I finished Naruto. I've like watched all these other things. We're just like in COVID still. What do I watch? And like, you know, one of my best friends is telling me like, you have to watch One Piece. This is the one anime she likes. I was like, okay, fine. I'm gonna watch this dumb anime. And like at the same time, like, you know, there was like a One Piece 1000th episode billboard in the middle of Los Angeles. The Gear 5 big announcement happened, and started watching. I skipped because I had like read at one point up to Little Garden, I think like 10 years ago. And so like I remembered a lot of it. So I just skipped to Arlong Park and started from Arlong Park because I had like watched that first few episodes like a bunch of times trying to start it, and then just zoomed through. Finished the moment when Luffy, like the episode I caught up on was the moment that Luffy punched Kaido so hard that We Are started playing.
Oh, yes.
And it broke me. There's TikToks I posted that we could find that are like me crying because I was like, wait. In 3 months, I just watched all 1,000 episodes of this thing. What do I do now? And then I read the manga, and like since then, it's just been on rails. It's like from the end of Wano to today, like Oda just keeps one-upping himself. I don't know how this is happening.
Yeah,
like the best One Piece that's ever been written is happening right now, and it's been good for 1,000 episodes in 30 years.
Yeah, it's insane. It's actually like when people talk about like the greatest of all time for anime, you know, it's always going to be subjective in some ways, but I think truly like One Piece, I feel like it's hard not to argue at this point that One Piece is just the greatest like anime franchise at this point, from like a longevity standpoint, a quality standpoint, you know,
dollars
but like
made.
Yeah, but it's and like as it continues on, I'm starting to think it's just maybe one of the greatest pieces of media ever created.
I've said to people, this is the greatest story told in our lifetimes.
Yeah, I mean it's currently our generation's Iliad. You know,
yes, right.
That's crazy to say because it's just this goofy rubber pirate who goes on an adventure on this really big ocean.
But I think that's like part of the reason, right? I don't think I feel like the fact that there is this like irony between the goofiness and the wackiness of what this show is at times to the seriousness and the heart and the tears that I've cried with this show is what makes it so beautiful and so tolerable, right? Like if I don't think anything that was only the goofy side could be good for this long. I don't think anything that was that dire or sad or stark or serious could be good this long. I think like when stuff that's that serious gets to this world and size, it starts becoming exhausting. And when stuff that's silly, you stop caring eventually, right? But because it's both, you're able to ride it for 1,500 probably chapters by the end. I will say the one thing that is holding me back from saying this is the best story ever told actually is it hasn't ended yet. I have like, as a person who has dedicated their lives in similar ways to Game of Thrones and Lost and just so many properties where then you get to the finish line and you're like, oh wait, no, do I hate this?
Yeah, and you know, anime's got one of the worst like end syndrome of all time, where like many animes just are just terrible at ending things. And so yeah, we'll have to see like how One Piece will actually finally end. And speaking of which, um this is something that I want to say to like people who don't watch One Piece, have not consumed One Piece media. As we get closer and closer to One Piece actually finishing, I feel like we're getting to this sort of point at which, like, when it happens, it's going to be such a monumental event that, like, if you are somebody who hasn't watched One Piece up until this point, you will be spoiled. We're getting to that point of singularity. And so this is kind of your last chance to actually get in and jump in if you care at all about the what's going on in One Piece, because yeah, it's happening. The end is near.
Right. Like there will be a difference between reading One Piece and not knowing what the One Piece is, and reading One Piece and knowing what it is. And I don't know how to explain exactly why that will be true. But there will be. And the moment that it is public what the One Piece is, like, is going to be really hard, to the point that I'm like hoping like that they're able to do, because Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood did this. They were able to, like, within a week or two, release the final manga chapter at the same time of the final anime episode. Like, it was basically caught up at that point. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping Toei has learned that lesson and is able to do it, because I can't imagine the manga coming out with what the ending is and then the anime having to wait 3 months and not get spoiled.
Yeah.
I just don't think, like, Gear 5 didn't do it. And like and people tried hard to not spoil Gear
Yeah.
5 and it did not succeed. I knew what Gear 5 was before I started reading or watching the anime as really. And that was way like a year before it was animated. So,
Yes.
and like kind of the right on your point, like, there's also something magical about moments like this, I think, in history and the world. Like, J.K. Rowling sucks. And I can go on a whole rant about that, why she's a terrible person. But being a part of the ending of Harry Potter was a thing. Like, there was only one moment that happened, and everyone got into the bookstore the day that it came out. Everyone read, right? Like, watching even the end of, like, episode 3 coming out was a similar one. Because at the point, that was like, George Lucas was like, I'm done. Episode 3 is the last Star Wars movie I'm ever making. This is it. And so, like, there was a moment where it's like, oh, this is the end of something that's like been monumental in how it's culturally affected people and the story that it's told. And depending on what you feel the quality, like, it still had that ending moment where, like, One Piece is going to have that, but might be good.
Yeah, yeah. Dude, it's gonna be. I don't know how to put it, but like, and I don't want to be like to wax too poetic or to be over dramatic about this thing, but it is truly like I cannot think of another media franchise that has had a moment quite as big as this, where like truly the franchise might actually just be done. Like Pokemon Ash finally becoming champion, that's awesome, but like Pokemon will move on.
Right.
I and like all this stuff, but like with One Piece and like Luffy's, there might be an offshoot of One Piece afterwards or whatever, but like the world that knew what the One Piece was, like the world before we knew what One Piece is and the world after are going to be very different places.
Yes, yeah. and just like, and to your point of like trying to jump in now, like, if you want to experience this, like, it's worth it. It is 100% worth all 1055 episodes. And if you need to read through some of it versus watch through some of it, I know people that have fallen off at different points. They're like, I think I realize you definitely have been on the MMcast during the audio recording era, because we've talked about you like were caught up to like Whole Cake Island. I was like, no, you have to keep watching.
Yes.
I like remembered it when we described it. I was like, oh, wait, you have not finished. Wano is like one of the sickest things out there. You got to get through it.
Yeah.
And it just keeps being better, which is
It's
wild.
like on all fronts. It's a crazy thing on all fronts. Like I I've always had a lot of respect for One Piece. I think I've said it for even before I was caught up anything, like even before I was even that super invested in One Piece. I've always just shown how much respect that I have for Oda and the One Piece franchise and all that. But there's something crazy to behold that, like, right now in both the manga and the anime side, it just feels like it's breaking ground all the time. Like I truly believe that the One Piece anime right now is like one of the most beautiful animes I've ever seen. Like, why is every episode like movie quality, and why is every fight like the best fight that like I compare it to like all the current anime, like the things that people go to for like, oh, this show is so well animated and so fun for shonen, like Mob Psycho, My Hero, Jujutsu Kaisen, whatever. One Piece may just top those things, and it's just
it's doing what those shows are doing weekly.
yeah, it's mind blowing. It's crazy.
And so it was like Vincent Chancellor, the person I was talking about, who like got started in other things, but like he made his name doing One Piece. He's the one that did the Sukuna and Maharaja fight or whatever that like in Jujutsu Kaisen, who is that's the fight. That's the fight. Everyone's like, that's the wildest, most crazy animated thing I've ever seen. That's like 20 One Piece episodes in the last year.
Yeah, like I was thinking back, like what are my top 10 animated fights of 2023, and it's just like, why is it all One Piece?
Right. I guess it's One Piece and Jujutsu Kaisen, and like in a year that like Mob Psycho had a third season, Vinland Saga had a second season, Attack on Titan ended.
Yeah, it's just like how is it just like the
goofy rebel pirate show.
Yeah, it's just a silly pirate show. It's so funny too because I keep trying to egg on my I play the card game with a bunch of people who are not caught up, and I sit them down and I'm just like, this is what you're missing out on. I show them little clips because they were curious like what the current anime looks like. And they're like, wait, what? And when did we stop being a show about silly little pirates on like sailboats?
That's like one of the fun things of watching it all at once was like I got to like sit down in a year-long period and just experience the history of animation since 1999, right? Like because the first episode was like, oh, this is weekly 1999 anime, and then you get to like Water 7, you're like, oh, this is like weekly 2005 anime, and then you get to Whole Cake Island, and you're like, oh, this is like mid 2010s like pre-Dragon Ball Super-esque anime, and then the Dragon Ball Z Super team moves over to Wano, and they were just like, we're not making anything else really. Here's all of the money. And and there's problems. Like there's still like what I will say is that they've bolstered the pacing with stunningness is the best way I could say it, right? It's no longer like the POV of 17 different people. It's like Zoro fighting an angel shooting fire dragons while jumping over like massive boulders.
Oh, dude, that fight, like my jaw was on the floor for the entire duration of that fight. I mean, like, oh my god, it's just I have never seen. It was just like art that I have never seen on that scale level, whatever, and it just to do that so consistently over and over and over. I was just like, I don't know how to describe it. It just feels like I walked into this like weird room in the Matrix that popped out and like it was coded to just be the most beautiful things I've ever seen. I think it was just such a sublime moment that like I could not describe to somebody like, but if you sit there and you just watch Wano arc from front to end and you just get to witness these art masterpieces of episodes, like it's overwhelming.
A friend that I have in the Magic creator space, Cal, who used to be with Playing with Power, he he's one of the people like through me being obsessed with the show, I convinced along with I think a few other people to watch this show, but he got to like Dressrosa, or I think maybe it was like he hit the slump of post time skip and he moved to reading and he read it. He finished reading it because he like couldn't get past. Maybe it was even as early as Thriller Bark, and is now like watching it with his, I believe, wife or girlfriend. They're like in Dressrosa, I think, are about to hit it, and I'm like. I was kind of like trying to tell him like, you need to catch up. You need to like, and like, or just like watch these episodes. And then I started listing the episodes from like basically episode 900, like basically Wano onward. That I'm like, these are the key episodes you have to watch. And then I realized I listed basically episode 1000 to 1070 and with like skipping 3 of them.
Yeah.
And like, I was like, wait. Oh yeah, okay. So you gotta watch like 895 because that's, or not, 965 because that's like the end of Odin's flashback, and then you gotta make sure you get like episode 1000 because they do the whole recap moment. It's a really great moment that you really want to get the intro for. Okay, and then you got to go to 1015 and 1016 because that's like the whole Luffy walking up to the pirates and the whole Yamato flashback scene. And then I was like, well, then you got to watch 23, 24, and 27 because those are all the fights with. I was like, wait. This is just every episode.
Just watch it all. Yeah.
Like, oh, you don't want to miss like Snake Man plus like Yamato shooting the like his like ice snake like thing.
And again, going to the anime, and like when the new opening dropped, and it was again just one of these things where I think the One Piece opening might be one of my favorite openings of all time. Like the egghead, like it has to be in my top 5, if not higher up. It's just like everything about it is just immaculate and sublime.
I think other than maybe We Are, it's the best one, and I think We Are only as good because of 25 years of the history built into it. Like, I think it's the best intro, and it's the same guy.
Yeah, same guy. And I didn't realize how emotional I was gonna get when I saw it live when they were at Nationals. And the guy, by the way, the guy sings. He sounds exactly the same as he does
Right.
in the track. He's such a good singer. And I just remember just feeling so overwhelmed and seeing the animation of the opening too in like a big screen, and just reliving that moment of watching the opening for the first time, but live. I mean, it was just so overwhelming. I felt like tears well up, not because I was like sad or whatever. It was just like that feeling of being like, just, I don't know, just like overwhelmed with emotion, and it was crazy.
So many cool things happened in that opening.
Yeah. And like you get to like, and again, this is again coming from somebody who like I got into One Piece late. I wasn't super invested when I was growing up into One Piece. I don't really have, I think, the same kind of nostalgia I have for One Piece like I do with like Naruto, for example. Like and even with that said, like seeing that opening and them kind of doing the flashbacks of everything, like the moment where Luffy, you see all of his outfits from episode 1 all the way to now, like just even seeing that journey of him going, like I feel emotional watching that now. And like, it's just, yeah, I don't know.
I was excited to see the floor change to the island floors and they're walking on them.
Yeah.
I was like going through like, oh, that's the Dressrosa tile. That's the Thriller
that's
part.
Alabasta.
Yeah. It's like, it's so good. All right, so I do want to figure out a way to cut that part, but anyways, just watch and read and play the game. Just One Piece is great, and I have more One Piece announcements to make as time goes on that I can't make on this podcast. But thank you so much for jumping on.
Yeah, no, I mean this was super fun. This is such a great time to be a One Piece fan, and I'm getting to live it through so many different mediums right now, and so I've just become enveloped in all that is One Piece, and it's great. So
yeah, it's 25th anniversary this year. I think it's like the year to get in. We began the Funnel Saga. You have time. There's like 5 years left, but it definitely we're definitely like watching something amazing happen, and like it's a lot of work to jump into it, but it's worth it, and it's in a way that like I don't know what to do with myself once you finish it. You're like, oh wait, but what's like cool. Because I have friends who are like you were kind of doing this, right? You like where you like you were wanting to wait for it to kind of come out in segments, especially because like watching it week to week back in the day was a little bit more of a like, okay, wait, we've now seen the same Rebecca flashback 17 times. But there's just so much to do once you're caught up. Like there's like content creators you get to watch, conversations like this that you get to have that like make it worthwhile beyond just like also getting to witness the story as it happens. And I don't think there's like shows aren't always that, but when they are that, I think it's something special. And One Piece just happens to be that. But is like, imagine if Game of Thrones got to season 8 and was still good. Is I guess like the one way I can just, or season 7 and was was bad, like season, like remember like Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones for like season 1, and then season 2 was like better than season 1, and then season 3 like escalated there, and then season 4 might have been the best season, and then it started going downhill. But imagine after season 4, season 5 was, wait, that was better. And then season 6 was, wait, that was better than season 5, which was better than 4. And then it ends well. Imagine that universe. And that could be the universe we're in One Piece. Like all signs are pointing to that. But yeah. All right. So what's last thing, make sure hit that like and subscribe button. Comment below what your favorite One Piece trading card game deck is and what deck we should talk about in future episodes. Do we maybe a more thorough deep dive to go through matchups, because that I think will be future content. Thank you, Josh, for joining. Once again, people can find your One Piece TCG channel below, as well as all the other ways to follow both of us. The link trees theoretically should be added to the description list. And let us know if you want more One Piece content, and check out all the things I've now advertised like 3 times in this podcast. But just in case this entire section of us just talking about One Piece from a spoiler perspective gets moved out, Sonic Roll, the board game, it's out of Barnes & Noble, and so is Spike's Family, and you should go check both of those out there. Anything that I missed, Josh, say on the end?
I think we're good. We
everyone.
cannot end.
This has been a production of Time Traveler Media, sending podcasts into the future.